I'm Justin from Warne, and we are out in the woods today doing some shooting practice. This is some stuff that everybody can practice in the off season before your hunt, and it's a lot of things that people don't consider when maybe they're going out to zero their rifle. If all you ever do is shoot off of a bench or maybe off of a bipod, you're not getting the right experience shooting in the woods, not only with the gear that you're going to be using, but in the positions you're going to likely find yourself in. So we're going to run through a couple common positions that you might find while you're hunting. The first being offhand. We're going to do some kneeling. We're going to do some seated and prone position, as well as using some natural terrain. One important thing that I will say about any of these positions is you want to focus on the same cadence every time that you shoot. Doesn't matter if you're on a bench, doesn't matter if you're practicing positional shooting. You want to do that same thing every time because that's consistency, and consistency is accuracy. The things that I'm going to focus on are the safety. I'm going to focus on my breathing, my trigger control, my follow through, and then I'm going to run that bolt for another round. So every time my rifle is clear, every time that I'm preparing for a shot, what I'm going to do is as I mount that rifle, I'm going to focus on safety as number one. How many times do you see somebody, they rush pull up their rifle and they've got a dead trigger because they haven't taken their safety off? So every time, keep that in your mind and practice it. I'm going to take a shot, mount the rifle, safety's coming off, and then I'm going to focus on my breathing. Breathing is really important when you're shooting. You want to focus on squeezing that trigger and breaking the shot at your natural respiratory pause. And what that means is every time I breathe in, my body stops for a second before I breathe out. Same thing happens when I breathe out, my body pauses for a moment before I breathe back in. You need to figure out what that natural respiratory pause is for you. And as you breathe out, when you hit that pause, that's when you're squeezing that trigger and try to get it to break. That way your body is moving the least and you're focused on that trigger control. After I break that shot, I'm going to try my best to follow through. It's hard with a lot of hunting rifles because a lot of time you're dealing with some significant recoil, but if you can really follow through that shot, manage that recoil, try to spot your impact. A lot of times if you miss and you can get another round off, that's great. But if you come off the rifle immediately and you're looking around, you probably aren't going to see it. So try your best to follow through, spot your impact, and then we are going to run that bolt, get another round in case you need to make a follow-up shot. So again, in these positions, I'm going to run through that cadence every time I'm shooting the gun. Even when I'm dry firing, I'm going to do the same thing. So shooting offhand, we have some targets set up at about 100 yards. Offhand is a difficult position to shoot from in any situation, especially if you've been hiking and you're breathing hard, your heart is racing, your adrenaline's going, you're about to take a shot. That's the most critical time you really need to focus controlling that breathing. So offhand, again, I'm going to mount the rifle. I'm going to focus on my breathing, but safety off, breathing, get to that natural respiratory pause. I'm going to break that trigger and I'm going to follow through to try to spot my impact. And I'm running that bolt, getting another one in the chamber, and I'm taking it from there. When you are out at the range, you can do some things. You can do some jumping jacks. You can, I don't know, do a lap if you want. Try to get the heart rate elevated and get your breathing elevated so you can practice bringing it back under control to take that shot. Good things to practice. One thing that you can do if you're shooting offhand, that's in a lot of cases better than just making a quick offhand shot, is you can use your sling to help stabilize your position if you have time to do so. How I'm going to do that is I'm going to run my arm through my sling up to my elbow, wrap my hand back around onto the stock. Now, instead of just having my hand on the forend, I have got 3 points of contact with the stock, and when I mount that rifle, it is very stable. I mean, my right hand, I am grabbing onto the gun, but mostly it's just controlling the trigger. And I'm going to run through that same cadence where safety off, my natural respiratory pause, break the trigger, follow through, run another round. So in that case, I think I hit the target. At the same time, taking an offhand shot is a difficult shot to make at any distance, especially when your heart is racing really fast and you're breathing hard. So that's the importance of really trying to control that breath and focusing on it and your trigger control. But now I'm going to show you how to use a sling as a way to stabilize the rifle as you're shooting. So we will make the rifle ready again. And so again, I'm going to take my hand, I'm going to run it through my sling, and then back over itself. And as I pull my elbow and my hand back to me, it really stabilizes the rifle. There still will be some movement, but it's a lot more stable than it was before. In this position, I still do want to focus on my breathing and my trigger control like I do every single time. So I'm going to run through that same cadence, safety off, and breathing, and then trigger. So those are both offhand shots. One other thing that I would touch on for shooting offhand, be it supported with the sling or unsupported, is one thing you can do to try to calm down that reticle on the target is back your scope power off. I'm carrying this on the minimum power anyway, which is 2.5 power, but backing that scope power off can make it seem like the reticle is not moving as much. If you have it on max power, or depending on your scope, even the midpoint power, depending on your overall max magnification, it can make it seem like that reticle is moving a lot more than it actually is. So backing off that power can help quite a bit. Beyond shooting offhand, if I'm in a situation like this, I want to try to take a kneeling shot, because it's going to be more stable than an offhand shot. So even if I cannot use my sling, if I have to take a quick shot while I'm kneeling, I'm going to try to get into a position where I can support the front of the rifle while keeping my elbow on my knee. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to tuck, I'm right-handed, I'm going to tuck my right foot under my butt, and I'm going to sit on that foot. It actually helps that I have my hunting boots on because they're stiff, so it gives me a nice spot to sit on. But I'm going to sit on that foot. And then as I bring my rifle up, depending on the shot and the angle that you actually have to make it at, if you can get your elbow on your knee, that's going to be the most stable position that you can get in. So let's load around. And in this case, just based on where I am now, this is actually a pretty stable position. And I'd be very comfortable making this shot. At the same time, even better than that, is I can still use my sling while I'm kneeling, while I have support of that elbow. So if I run my arm through, and so now I have multiple points of contact, I'm gonna run through that same cadence, my safety off, breathing, and then break the shot. Sometimes you need something else to shoot off of, and simply taking a knee or trying to get the front of the rifle supported is not good enough. If you have something on you like my pack, which has a frame on it, I can throw that down in front of me. And in this spot right here, where our target is actually fairly level, so I could make this shot. This one gets a little bit difficult if there's a lot of angle to the shot that you're taking, either uphill or downhill. But if you have a fairly level shot, you can always try going seated using something like a pack. Maybe you're using shooting sticks, anything to support the front of the rifle. And there's a lot of different ways that I could use this position while seated. In this case, I'm just crossing my legs, and I would throw the forend of the rifle on the top of my pack. I can either put my hand on top of the scope to help stabilize it. In this case, I'm actually going to hold on to my pack as I'm shooting and kind of hold the forend of the gun at the same time. Let's throw around in here. Now my elbows are not supported, but this is a quick way to get into position. So still focus on my safety, my breathing. and my trigger control. One other thing I can do while seating from this position, whether I have a pack or not, is if you can't get into a spot where you cross your legs, you can keep your knees up and you can balance your elbows on your knees at the same time. And that's a pretty good position. And then if I didn't have a pack in front of me and it's just myself and I'm seated, I could rest my elbows on my knees again, and that is fairly stable as well. Again, that can be a little bit difficult if you have a lot of extreme angle to the shot that you're taking, but in situations where you're level, seated is a pretty good option. So another situation you might find yourself in is if you have some natural terrain that you can shoot off that can help either support your rifle or get yourself a little bit more elevation. In a lot of cases, you're trying to get over the top of maybe some tall grass or some scrub brush or small trees to get a clear line of sight on your shot. Last thing you want to be doing is have that bullet being sent through a bush. Here we have a down log, and I could approach this a couple of different ways. One thing I don't want to do is I don't want to just throw my rifle down on this log because it's going to be really wobbly. I have my pack. I could throw my pack down and just get on top of it. Another thing that I typically carry is one of these ultralight shooting bags. This also can double as a seat if I want to sit on it too, but I can take this pack and throw it down. It's going to give me a lot more stable position to shoot off of. And so how I would do that is I would typically carry this on a carabiner, and then I can just put my bag down on a log. I'd probably go kneeling in this situation, and that feels really stable. Same thing goes. I could even use my pack, and I could use this as a rear bag if I had to get support underneath. In this case, it's pretty low, so I wouldn't need it, but if I needed to, I could throw this rear bag either under the butt of the gun, or I could throw it under the grip of the rifle as well. So one last position I want to show real quick is shooting prone. The one thing about shooting prone is it's a lot easier if you're running a bipod on your gun or even shooting off a tripod. In this case, I'm going to be shooting off of my pack, but my pack's pretty empty, so it's not going to get me enough elevation in this case to actually make a shot. So in that situation, I can still use my pack and I can use it as something to prop my body up on, and I'm going to shoot off of my elbows. So in this situation, I'm actually going to put my elbows up on my pack and shoot normally like I would in prone, and then I'm just going to use my elbows on my pack to support the whole rifle. And that helps to get enough height. So thanks for watching. Hopefully the little tips and tricks that we showed you today can help in your shooting ability. If you are looking for any of those accessories for your rifle, please head to warnescopemounts.com. Check out our social media pages and like and subscribe to those. And we wish everybody a safe and hopefully successful hunting season.